Priesthood keys. The third thing.
I'm for it.
The third thing Joseph... we shouldn't say the third thing. There were a lot of things, but another key thing. Third thing on our list.
On our list.
Priesthood keys.
I already mentioned when translating the Book of Mormon, they had questions about baptism. They went and prayed. And
John the Baptist.
By the ministry of angels, priesthood keys were restored by the laying on of hands of a resurrected angel. So, restoration of priesthood keys, or the authority to restore the kingdom of God, priesthood restoration. Together with that, it's actually the restoration of the ministry of angels to the earth. I guess that really was initiated with Moroni.
Yeah.
But with priesthood comes the keys of the ministry of angels. Access to that patriarchal order and the kingdom of God on the other side of the veil. So priesthood keys, very important part of the restoration, not just from an administrative perspective of having the structure of the church and the kingdom of God, but very important for communication through the veil. That ministry of angels and the ability of all of God's ministers to work together for the salvation of God's children on the earth.
And again, we see a pattern that has been used by the Lord in the past through other heads of dispensations. For instance, Abraham, he wanted the priesthood. He wanted a fullness of the priesthood. Where did he have to go? He had to receive it from one who actually had it, right? He had to receive it from Melchizedek. It's just one of many examples where these prophets, especially these heads of dispensations, have to physically receive those keys from one who has the authority to bestow those keys to them. The Lord's house is a house of order. As good of a person as you may want to be, as much as you feel like the Lord is calling you to do certain things, I in no way want to belittle any of that. However, you must receive authority from one who has authority themselves. The Lord has structure. His house has been set up His way. You don't just wake up one day like Nicodemus in the New Testament and say, look, I want to be baptized. Even the angel said, look, bro, I can't baptize you. You got to go to the one who has the authority to baptize you.
Is that an exact quote?
Close enough. Depending on your version of the New Testament, maybe.
Your translation.
My translation.
As far as it's translated correctly.
There you
yes.
go. So time and time and time again, and again, this is something that so many churches today can't truly justify or reconcile. They just feel like, well, I feel like God has called me to do this. I feel like I have authority. What Joseph taught and what was restored to the earth is best of intentions, great. But feeling like you have authority is not having authority. That throughout time, Old Testament, New Testament, in today's last dispensation, you must receive literal keys from one who has them, one who was ordained by God, or receive them from another who was ordained by God. And if you have not received those keys, then you do not have the authority to exercise those keys for the blessing of God's children. He could not do it any other way. This is the way it has been established, and there is no other way.
Well, and it's interesting because that doesn't mean you can't do good, which
100%.
is of God.
Yes, correct.
You just can't do good in an authorized way that accomplishes the fullness of what is available in God's plan.
The fullness of the work of salvation cannot be executed on without proper restoration of priesthood, keys, and authority.
Which is what Christ gave to Peter.
Exactly right.
And was what Peter restored to Joseph Smith.
Yep.
It's as simple as that.
Yep, that's right.
And with those priesthood keys comes authority and the ability to perform authorized ordinances which are necessary for salvation. And it's one of the beautiful things about the kingdom of God and the gospel, and perhaps one of the great stumbling blocks as well, is that it's primitive. The ordinances and the path to God's presence is they are all primitive symbolic ceremonies. And in the age of modern technology, seems strange and antiquated. But as we have discussed, it dates back to the first man, when there was zero technology on the earth.
These things are plain and simple. They're not difficult.
They can save any person regardless of the society and situation where they live.
Yep. And if they seem foreign to you, well, guess what? They are foreign because they were not created by man or by man of our age. They are
Eternal.
They have been around forever, and the exercise and application thereof will continue to go on forever. That's not going to change.
I have one of my all-time favorite quote here by President Nelson from his talk, "The Temple and Your Spiritual Foundation." So this was, I think, a few conferences ago when he was talking about the construction being done on the Salt Lake Temple. And he says, actually, do I have it pulled up here? Let me see if I can put this on screen here.
And I disappear.
"And to each of you who has made temple covenants, I plead with you to seek prayerfully and consistently to understand temple covenants and ordinances. Spiritual doors will open. You will learn how to part the veil between heaven and earth, how to ask for God's angels to attend you, and how better to receive direction from heaven. Your diligent efforts to do so will reinforce and strengthen your spiritual foundation." This is what Joseph Smith restored to the earth. The ability through temple covenants and ordinances to open spiritual doors, to part the veil between heaven and earth, to ask for and receive the ministry of angels, and thus better receive revelation, direction from heaven, and day by day reinforce and strengthen our spiritual foundation, or progress, gaining further light and truth.
Everything the gospel, everything the restoration has sought to achieve is to teach, to empower, to educate, to help the children of men understand how to enter the presence of the Father. That process starts, we start down here at the bottom, and then we learn line upon line, precept upon precept, and ultimately, when we get to the temple, and we truly start to understand what the temple is not just teaching, but is giving us, is authorizing us to do, all of it is culminating at this understanding of how to enter the presence of the Father now and in the eternities. That opportunity is available to all of God's children, whomever will seek it and go after it and desire it with real intent. All of that is available. Being in God's presence is available now and in the eternities. Celestial glory, living a celestial life, is available now and in the eternity. None of the blessings of God are being withheld from his children. All may be received if we do what is necessary and learn how to apply the atonement, the grace of Christ appropriately to allow those blessings to be received today. You are meant to receive these blessings now and in the future. So for those who do have a current temple recommend, for those who go often, and those who maybe don't go as often but know that they should be, pay very close attention to all of the words spoken in the endowment ceremony. Because if you do, you'll start to understand all of the blessings, all of the knowledge, all of the intelligence being bestowed upon you is not meant for some future point in the eternities. It is meant to bless your life now, today, and to receive that celestial glory and power right now, if you will have it.
To thin the veil day by day
Yep.
through proper, righteous, authorized use of the endowment you receive.
And this is what President Nelson is seeking to get the saints to understand. Pleading with the saints to understand. Because as the world, which has consistently been in a state of telestial and maybe at times more righteous, and people as a whole tend to be better and maybe approaching a terrestrial state of being, as the world slides deeper and deeper and becomes more entrenched in a telestial state of being, as the world literally becomes Babylon in every degree, what President Nelson is teaching you is you individually and as a family have the power and authority through the temple to establish celestial living, Zion right now. How is Zion going to be fully manifested to receive Jehovah, Jesus Christ someday? It is through you and your family learning, doing the work, pleading for understanding, and seeking with real intent how to live a celestial lifestyle today. How to apply the endowment and the power.
Celestial law.
The power, the gift, the beauty, the celestial law of the endowment. How do you apply that today? Because it's possible, and when you do it, it changes every aspect of your life. You are once again reborn, as Christ teaches Nicodemus. This is a process that happens over and over again, this rebirth. And the endowment is ultimately looking to teach us how to be born into the company of the celestial state of being. That's where it's leading us to become.